Hey y'all, welcome back to Hopeful and Wholesome. So this chat today that you're about to hear is an Instagram Live that I did, an Instagram Live workshop all about the most important parts of your human design chart to help you create the biggest shifts in your well-being. I think we all know at this point that human design is pretty complex and there's a lot of pieces to it. And so I want to break down the most important pieces. And I had initially said five when I was announcing that I was doing this live workshop on Instagram. And then the more I sat with it and I was kind of making my notes, I'm like, you know what? I can't leave this one out. So it's going to be six. So forgive if there's any weird audio glitches because this is happening live, but this is a really, really good training. So let's jump in. Okay, what are the most important parts of your human design chart that are going to create the biggest impacts in your health and your well-being? So when I first announced this, that I was going to do this workshop, I initially said five. And because I feel like five is a nice round number. But the more I sat with this and like started taking notes of what I wanted to share, I feel like five just wasn't enough. There's a sixth one that I just couldn't leave out. So now it's going to be the six most important pieces. So I started talking about in my stories this connection between human design and wellness and your well-being. And this is kind of the lens that I take all my clients through when I'm working with them. And yes, we're looking at the physical pieces, we're doing the functional labs, and we're looking at from that perspective. But I also want to get to, of course, right? I talk about the energetic root cause. And when we're talking about the energetic root cause, we're talking about what is happening on an energetic level in the body. And it all starts with really understanding and embodying. It's not just about understanding, it's also embodying your human design. Your human design is your energetic blueprint. It's just who you are at a soul cellular level. And this affects how all the energy is flowing through the body. So, what I was explaining in my stories, and I'll just explain it here before we start. When we're looking at wellness or well-being through the lens of human design. We spend a lot of our lives acting in a way, being in a way that we are not divinely designed to be. And when that is the case, we end up shoulding ourselves. And we hear that a lot, right? You live by the shoulds, you end up shoulding yourself, meaning you're just doing things and acting in a way just because you think you should. And, I should think this way. I should do this in my life. I should live my life this way. I should run my business this way, right? It's all living by the shoulds versus actually listening to what your body is telling you and moving from that place. When we're able to tune in to that place, that's when we're tuning into our human design, listening to what the body is telling you. That's that soul level voice that's speaking to you. That's when we really start to get away from the shoulds, living by the shoulds, and live according to our design. So when we are living by the shoulds, we end up shoulding ourselves, right? We end up spending an excessive amount of energy living in a way that is not in alignment for us. That is not the way we are designed to be. When we're spending this excessive amount of energy, I hate to use the word waste, but really and truly that's what it's doing. It's wasting energy that could be used doing things that we are designed to do, living in accordance with our divine design. And so when we start to work in a way that's out of alignment, we start to meet resistance. And I'm going to talk about what that looks like when these 6 parts of the chart I'm going to talk about. But we start to meet resistance. When we meet the resistance, this is when we start to feel things show up to manifest themselves on the physical body. So this is when we start to experience things like gut issues and hormonal issues and brain fog and memory issues and headaches and autoimmune issues and overall immunity issues, right? Getting sick all the time, right? Your physical body is going to show you that your energetic body is out of alignment, that flow of energy it's being held hostage somewhere, right? There's some sort of stagnation, blockage, whatever, that's blocking this free flow of energy through the body, which means your cells and your organs, your glands, all of these things are not getting that life force energy flowing through it. So it's going to cause resistance in the physical body. So this is the lens that I'm looking at my clients through. It's yes, I want to know what's happening on your physical body, and I want to look at the functional labs to know, what's happening there. But once I see that, then I want to go look and see in the energetic body where these things are coming from, where these things have started. So when we're looking at the human design body graph, there is a bazillion places we can look, right? There's a lot going on. And I don't want to say there are any parts that are unimportant, but from my perspective, there are 6 main parts that are the most important. And these are the parts that when we, again, it's not just about understanding, when we understand and when we embody them, meaning we know how to live these parts out of us. And this is when we start to create shifts. I was going to say shifts and change at the same time. We start to create shifts in the physical body, because now we're living in alignment. Now we feel this ease and flow in life, just like how we're running through life. And now we're going to feel that ease and flow in the body. So the first one I want to talk about is your not self theme. And I know this is like very basic, like human design 101, but I feel like this is important. And when I'm talking with my clients about this, that to me, the not self theme is it's your compass, right? This is your compass to tell you kind of when you've veered off track, like when you have kind of veered off that path of alignment. And so every one of the 5 types has a not self theme. So it's when you're feeling, for manifestors, it's anger, right? For generators and manifesting generators, it's frustration. And for Mani-Gens, it's kind of more of impatience. For projectors, it's bitterness. For reflectors, it's disappointment, right? It's these feelings, these not self themes this is your compass to tell you when you veered off. So, clients ask me all the time, like, well, how do I know I'm, quote, not in alignment? This is really it. This is it. Now, yes, of course, there are plenty of other signs that your body's going to give you, but initially it's that not self theme. So if we are feeling that, so for me as a Mani-Gen, mine is frustration, impatience. For me, for Mani-Gens, it's really more of an impatience. When that's showing up for me, that's a sign that it's time for me to kind of stop, reassess. Do I need to pivot? Do I need to make a change? Do I need to delegate? Do I need to change directions? Do I need to try something again? Like, do I need to, so it's figuring out where the redirection needs to happen, because the longer we spend and that perpetual feeling of that not self theme, the more energy is wasted feeling, the frustration or the anger or the disappointment or the bitterness, whatever it is, rather than energy going towards, what you're creating, that, bringing forth that life force energy in your life and your relationships in your business and your job or whatever. So the longer we're spending in that not self theme, the more your physical body is going to show you signs of this. I did a post a long time ago. I actually have a podcast episode about this I go through each of the human design types and the most common chronic symptoms. And a lot of it is based on just these feelings, like where in the body do these feelings come from? In traditional Chinese medicine and a lot of other Eastern medicine schools of teaching, like the emotions live in certain parts of the body. So these emotions literally have an energy of their own. They have a chemical makeup of their own that are going to affect your physical body. So the first important part of your chart is understanding your not self theme and what that means. So the list that I gave a second ago, like check your type and understand what your not self theme is. And even if you just start there, like just recognizing day in, day out, when, if you're a manifestor, when the anger comes up, if you're a generator, when the frustration or the impatience comes up, right? Just recognizing when those not self themes come up and start to assess, like, okay, what needs to shift because I'm out of alignment here. The second one I want to mention is your authority. So your authority is how you make decisions. And there are several different types of authority. The most common authority is emotional and sacral. The two most common types are going to be emotional authority and sacral authority. So I'm probably going to speak on those the most, but there are other authorities, projectors and reflectors and manifestors. There's some other not as common ones that are available that are options as your authority, but your authority is ultimately how you best make decisions. And I want to say this first and foremost. In human design, it just in life, whether we're talking about human design or not, there is no such thing as mental authority. It doesn't exist. We are not designed to make decisions from our mind. Even though that's what we've been taught, even though we live in a world that's very analytical and very mental driven, right? Everything is driven from the head. We've become so disconnected from our bodies that we have forgotten that our bodies are what holds the answers. Our body holds the answer. Our bodies give us the wisdom we need to make decisions. It's not from our mind. Our mind is, I had a mentor tell me this one time, that our mind is more like a playground. It's just kind of, roll ideas and play with scenarios, but it's not to actually make decisions. The decisions are made on a somatic level, meaning from the body. And so that first and foremost is, that could be all you need to know, period. But it's even more helpful if you understand what your authority is. So for example, if you're emotional authority, like I said, this is the most common authority in human design. Emotional authority means that you are designed to ride that emotional wave before making decisions, which means you're not designed to make decisions in the moment. You're not designed to make decisions at the height of your emotions, which is what a lot of us do, just because in the world we live in, we are emotionally driven human beings, and we haven't been taught emotional intelligence. We haven't been taught how to manage our emotions. And so much less how to make decisions after riding the emotional wave. So when you have emotional authority, when that's your authority, your decisions take time. It could be an hour, it could be a day, it could be a week, right? You can't rush the decision-making process when you're an emotional authority. And I think this is where a lot of people who have this as their authority get tripped up. And it does end up because we end up making emotional decisions too quickly. We end up jumping to things that aren't designed for us. So again, we meet that resistance. We meet the resistance in life. We're going to meet the resistance in our physical body. This is going to totally shift your physical well-being. We're not making decisions from an aligned place. So other example, sacral authority, that's the second most common. I personally am a sacral authority. Sacral authority meaning that you make decisions from that gut feeling. And for you, it happens in the moment. It's the right here, right now. And so rather than letting it ruminate for me, and this is how I know if I'm not listening to my authority, if I'm ruminating on it in my head, or I'm thinking too long about it, I've already gone out of alignment. Because your body, as a sacral authority, your body is going to tell you in the moment, yes or no. And if it's not a clear yes, then it's a no. So I know when I'm making a decision, if it's not a clear heck yes, I feel perfect about this, then it's a no. And a lot of times I don't want to think about that. I don't want to hear that because it's like, oh, but I really want it. Like, I want this to be the answer. And that's not what I'm getting. Right. But I know that there's a reason that my body isn't giving me that full body yes. So a couple other examples. So, if you're a reflector, you're a lunar authority, which means you're designed to wait a full lunar cycle to make decisions. Like you have a period of time that you're designed to wait to gather all the information, gather all the data before making the decision. If you are self-projected, you're meant to use your voice to make decisions. If you're an ego, this is another one I find ego authority is pretty rare, but it's because of conditioning. Ego authority basically means that you're designed to make decisions by thinking like, what's in it for me? How is it going to benefit me? But if we think about, how society conditions us, that sounds like a really selfish decision, right? You were designed to make selfish decisions as an ego authority with ego authority. And so again, when you think about there's conditioning around these pieces, I know people who are emotional authorities, they want to make the decision now, but they don't have, they haven't ridden the emotional wave yet, right? There's so much conditioning on how we quote should be making decisions. That's not how we're designed to be. We all have a unique way of making decisions. And when we go against that divine design, we meet resistance. I don't want to say we quote unquote make the wrong decisions because I don't think that there's a wrong decision, but it ends up taking us like the long way around to get to the thing that was correct for you in the first place. You know what I mean? You're just taking the long way around. And a lot of times that means you're taking the hard way around to get to where you're going to end up anyway. So this is going to cause a lot of resistance. That not self theme is going to flare its ugly head. It's going to end up, again, these physical things manifesting on the things are going to manifest on the physical body because we've gone against our design. So that's the second one. The third one is your profile lines. Now, profile lines, this is a talk for a whole other day because there's too much to talk about in an Instagram live and a short I'm recording for my podcast. So it is for your profile lines. There's 6 profile lines. And the reason I feel like this is such a crucial part of like how it really impacts your well-being and can really shift your well-being. When you understand your profile lines, this is how you're designed to show up. This is how you're designed to be in this world. This is how you're designed to serve people on this earth. So it's literally how you're designed to live and exist. And so understanding within your profile lines, how you're designed to like interact with people, like what do people have to do with, what you're here to do on this earth, how you're designed to speak and show up. There's so many nuances of the 6 profile lines that can really make a difference in how just overall well-being. Because when we look at a profile line, for example, so I'll use me as an example. So I'm a 3-5. And for me, and if you have a 3 line in your human design chart, 3 lines they're the experimenters, right? We're designed to do everything by trial and error. And so when you have a deep understanding of that, and I resisted this, I can tell y'all, I've resisted this for so long. I resented my 3 line. And sometimes I still do. I'm not going to lie. Sometimes I'm still like, oh, I don't want to keep experimenting. I am designed to experiment until I get it right. So I'm designed to fail forward a bazillion times before I find the right way to do things. So when I understand that and can accept that is part of my design, there is so much lightness and resistance you can let go of when you accept that this is a part of you and how you're designed to live there, and you can embrace it. So I can meet the trial and error head on without like totally resenting it. Again, it flares up sometimes and I have to kind of like redirect myself like, okay, no, this is part of the journey. So that's just an example of a profile line. But when you really understand your profile lines, kind of the challenges and the shadows that can show up within each of those, this is when, again, you can accept these certain parts of you that you maybe have shunned or like try to shove away or hide or reject or whatever. A 4 and a 6. All right, there you go. 4 and a 6. So a 4 lines are meant to be the networkers, they're connectors, right? They're connecting people, and your success in your like what's the word I'm looking for? Success is the word that's coming up for me, is totally driven by you networking with other people. And my husband has a 4. My husband is a 2-4. And so I use this example all the time. I've talked about this so many times in the podcast, just as an example, because he is a prime example of living out his true 4 line. Like he is a master networker, and what the jobs he's had in his career have all been about who do you know? Connecting people. It's connections. Like what he does now for work, it's all about connection, making connections. And then with the sixth line, well, let me say this too with the four line. Four lines are also meant to kind of have this retreat where you can kind of, there's time for you to retreat away from people for a little while before going back to finish this networking, right? So it's understanding the dynamic between people, other humans, and how to work that dynamic as a four line that's going to keep you healthy and keep you in that, like that, your signature feeling, right? Whatever your type is. The sixth line is you are the wisdom keepers. Like six lines are super wise, and six lines kind of go through this journey, these three different phases of life, and it's understanding your role in each of those three phases. So six lines, and I've worked with a handful of six lines, and there's so much resistance against this because it's the evolution of you as a six line is a process. And I know so many times six lines just want to speed it up and like, just let me just get to the end. It's just not how it works. With a three line, they go through these three different phases where they basically spend the first 30 years of their life as a three line. So it's just like I was saying, it's experimenting, it's failing forward, it's failing a million times before you figure out the right thing to do. And then the next, two chapters, two stages of their life are about learning from that, implementing the learnings, and then teaching other people. So those are a few examples. Learning to use your profile lines are going to be a huge asset to you, and just understanding like how this affects your overall well-being. And again, it's just releasing resistance around the parts that you don't necessarily love about yourself in the moment, right? So I'm going to go to the next one here. We're going to talk about specific centers here. Sorry, that's my daughter screaming. Specific centers here. So first, we're going to talk about the sacral center. So the sacral and the solar plexus are two of the ones that I want to talk about. And the reason I say let me talk about the sacral first. The reason I wanted to mention the sacral center is our source of power and creativity, and not really power. That's not the word I want to use. Well, life force energy is what I wanted to say. Life force energy, creativity, sexuality. Your life force is coming from your sacral center. And I mentioned this one especially with women. Like I mentioned earlier, there's certain emotions that live in certain parts of the body, right? And guilt and shame are two very common emotions in women. And this is where they live. And I cannot tell you how many women I have worked with when we're looking at their, sounds like I know, right? I'm sorry. She is singing at the top of her lungs. So when we're looking at guilt and shame, those of you listening on podcast, I don't know if you can hear it, but my daughter is singing loud. So I'm sorry. This is happening live. This is real life, y'all. So when we're looking at guilt and shame, these are two emotions that live in the sacral center. And as women, we are born into this world. Like this is like generational trauma that we're born with. And regardless of, I mean, this is how I feel. And in my experience working with women, regardless of what happens in your everyday life and what, traumas or emotional stress or whatever, the guilt and shame is there. Like I really believe we are just born with it. There are generations of things happening. And so because of that, there's so many issues that happens with the center. This particular center, sacral center, is associated with your reproductive organ. So you wonder why so many of us struggle with hormonal issues and reproductive issues and all of these things around our sex organs. This is why. So when we have our sacral center has so much power, and this is such a source of power and influence over the people around us. And it really is this creative life force energy. And so when we're able to understand like how this influences us and how this influences our energy, this is a game changer. It is literally pure power, and life force comes from this center. And so if we're not operating it correctly, this is how our energy starts to become stagnant. It slows down, right? And so understanding if you have this defined versus undefined, and I want to speak to these two pieces. So if you have the center defined, which is generators and mani-gens, this is what makes you a generator or a mani-gen. One of the things is having this defined sacral center. And so when it's defined, this means you have a lot of energy. This is why gens and mani-gens are required to get rid of all their energy before the end of the day, or they don't sleep well, right? It's like I tell when I explain it to people, it's like a puppy. Like you want to let the puppy in the backyard, let it run around and get all the energy out so it doesn't destroy the house. It's like it's a similar thing. So we want to make sure we get the energy out. The managens and gens, they have this generator energy. They have this defined cycle and it recharges overnight and it resets the next day. The thing is here, we have to understand that even though, and here's the thing for gens and mani gens, and this is where you can really easily get into that not self theme. Just because you have the energy for it doesn't mean you should. Could and should are not the same, right? So just because you can do something and say yes to the thing doesn't mean you should. So it's understanding where to put that energy. Yes, you have the energy, but it's understanding where to put it. When we start just doing things because we have the energy to do it and not really because it's lighting us up and you feel that like kind of lift in your sacral and you feel that like that feeling of satisfaction or excitement, then this is when we start to meet resistance. And this is when we start to feel that not self theme. It ends up manifesting itself on the physical level. And it's typically turns out in hormonal issues, right? Again, we're talking about reproductive organs connected to the sacral center. So, period stuff, energy, because it's going to affect your adrenals as well. Endometriosis. It can end up being, headaches and gut issues. There's a lot of things that can happen. So that's if you have a defined. If you have an undefined sacral center, basically this means that if you have an undefined, that you're able to amplify life force energy of other people around you. It's just not sustainable in the long run. So you kind of feed off of other people's defined sacrals. This is kind of a gift and a curse in a way. I don't want to say a curse, but there's gifts and challenges to this because the gift is you can feed off of other people's energy, but the challenge is that it runs out and it comes in bursts. And so it's understanding it's having that body wisdom to know when is enough, like enough is enough. This is my limit. I hit my limit. It's time to stop. It's time to rest. I have to recharge because unlike sacral beings like generators and mani gens, projectors, manifestors, reflectors, like you don't have that just automatic recharge button. Like you go to sleep and recharge and the next year, like, oh, let's go again. So it's understanding when is enough, when do I rest and recharge? And knowing that there are limitations to this creative energy that you have access to. So the other center I want to talk about, there are two centers. This is why it ended up being 6 and I wanted to do 5, but it's 6, is your solar plexus. So the solar plexus is the emotional center. And to me, this center is really the most important part of the chart in terms of mental health and in kind of honing in on our own mental health. It's because this is the emotional center, we can become so influenced by other people's emotions and our own emotions, which is why, like I used the example a second ago about if you're an emotional authority and you're meant to ride the emotional wave. So if you are emotional authority, this means you have your solar plexus center defined, which means, again, you're here to ride the emotional wave before making the decisions and understanding that your decisions are typically not going to be clear right away. And the other thing for that, I want to say, make a note of this. If you have emotional authority, it's never going to be 100% for you. You're going to have to be okay with 80% okay, like being at 80% okay, meaning I'm 80% sure that this is the right decision for me. And so when you have this center defined, you're able to just understanding how to harness that and like having the like taking that power to be able to ride the emotional wave before making decisions. And that really is going to make a huge difference in your emotional or in your mental health versus, trying to rush through decision-making processes and just making decisions just to make it. And then we end up again meeting that resistance. And so when it's undefined, this is where I find, again, I don't want to say it's a curse because it's not. I have my solar plexus undefined, but I feel like with every center and everything in your chart, there's nothing good or bad. It just is, right? It just is. And there's challenges to all of it. There's gifts and challenges to all of it. When you have your emotional center undefined, this means that you are able to, similar to what I was saying about the sacral, amplify the emotions of other people. And so the gift and the challenge to this is that you literally amplify other people's emotions. So when you feel other people's emotions, it's amplified in your own body. Like you feel like these are the empaths, right? The people that can just feel what's happening with other people's emotions. And people who are super sensitive to it, like being around a lot of people is exhausting because you're constantly just taking in everybody's emotions. And so it's understanding how to discern what is mine and what is somebody else's, right? Where am I holding on to other people's emotions, or is it mine? Because when we start to just take in and hold on to everyone else's emotion, this is what leads to issues related to the solar plexus. So the solar plexus is linked to a lot of our detox organs. And I love talking about this because I feel, again, everything is just so divinely designed. This is not by accident. Our solar plexus is correlated to a lot of our detox organs. So things like, our liver, kidneys, our pancreas, all of those are kind of, there's links to the solar plexus. So if you think about it, you think about emotions, and we always talk about like emotions as chemicals in the body, like that's how it happens. When you have an emotional reaction, your body is a pharmacy. Like there are chemicals happening in your body. There's neurotransmitters and enzymes and hormones, all these chemical things happening in the body. So when we're not allowing ourselves to go through that full emotional process, feel the things, allowing ourselves to feel the things, we're literally holding on to these chemicals in the body. And because this center is associated with so much of our detox organs, we are holding on to these chemicals. Your body literally cannot detox properly when we don't allow those things to emote, release, move out of the body, right? That's my daughter again. Now she's barking. I'm so sorry for the background noise. But this is what happens with the solar plexus, right? This is what happens when we don't know how to process our emotions. We don't know how to feel our emotions. Right? This is how it affects our physical body. This is crucial. The last one I want to mention for the sixth one is the throat center. And I mentioned the throat center because it's so connected it's connected to so many other parts of the body. So the throat center is basically where you are metabolizing ideas into inspiration, right? It's your manifested voice. It's you speak things into life. This is speaking your truth. It's using your voice. It's what you're manifesting, right? This is what happens in the throat center. And it's how you're here to express yourself. And I think this is where so much of us get caught up in it is, hold on one second. Let me tell her to be quiet. Okay. So this is where I think we get so caught up is holding back how we're expressing ourselves, holding back our true, speaking our truth, right? And I have worked with several women over the years where I honestly feel like this is the root cause of a lot of the physical things they were experiencing. Two of them in particular that I'm thinking of were either on the heels of a narcissistic relationship or had one in like far past and were healing from that. And so you think about like what happens when you're in a relationship with a narcissist is you lose your voice. That's it. You lose your voice. And both of them had thyroid issues, metabolism issues. It was real thing. And so when you are suppressing your voice, you're suppressing speaking your truth, you're suppressing your own natural power to speak things into existence and to express yourself freely, you are holding back so much energy that should be flowing all the way up through the body. And so when you're in your throat center is connected to your thyroid. And so that's affecting your metabolism, your energy, but it's also when your thyroid is affected, it's going to affect your adrenals, your pituitary, your thymus, which is responsible for your immune system, your pineal gland. Your pineal gland, it helps with circadian rhythm and your sleep and your energy, all of that, right? So there's so much that is affected when our thyroid is being affected. Like, because that's initially what it is because the throat center is associated with your thyroid gland. So when we're looking at, and I think it's no surprise here. Here's the other thing. This is another just theory I figure I'd share. Because I work mostly with women, like I work with men sometimes and kids, but majority women. And man, at this point, probably 85% of the women I've worked with have some sort of thyroid something. So whether it's hypothyroidism or like they're on their way to hypothyroidism, just a slow functioning thyroid, that Hashimoto's, right? Thyroid stuff. And I feel like this is such a testament to just how we're existing as women, right? Like we hold back our voice. We hold back our speaking our truth. We are afraid to express ourselves freely. And I really think a lot of this comes from conditioning from society, but also generational conditioning. Like, I mean, think of this is like getting on my feminist soapbox here, but like think of these generations where women didn't have a voice, right? For centuries, women didn't have a voice. Women couldn't speak up, women couldn't express themselves. I feel like this is like this generational trauma thing that happens, and that's how it shows up in the body. And I think it's just compounded by our own, human existence. But I feel like as women, that's just, it's so common for us to hold back our voice and hold back our opinions. And, we don't want to rock the boat, or we don't want to be confrontational, or we don't want to be too much, or whatever. There's so much conditioning around this where we really do hold back our ideas and the things that we want to bring to life, and speaking our truth and sharing our opinions and our beliefs and our thoughts, that this is literally holding back your life force energy in the body, and it's affecting so many aspects of your physical body. So that was my soapbox about the throat center, but I really do feel, and just witnessing the things that come up with the clients I work with, I see this happening so often, and I see how the throat center and the sacral center and the solar plexus, like all of these parts are affecting how our physical body is functioning. Because and the thing is too, I think about the solar plexus with the emotions, right? Like we're not taught in school how to manage our emotions. Like we're not taught any of these things. Like these are things, unless you work with a life coach, or a, you know, a guardian or a parent or someone in your life who has a lot of emotional intelligence, who teaches you these things. Typically, these aren't things that we learn, right? How to process emotions, how to feel emotions, not to stuff our emotions, not to hold things back, and how to process it in a way that allows our body to move through things rather than storing things, right? It's just not something we're taught. Same thing with the throat center. I mean, you think about even just like, the conventional school system. I mean, we're supposed to sit at a desk and be quiet all day and listen, right? So like, you see what I mean? There's a lot of conditioning around these pieces that affects how the energy is flowing through the body. And so, there's a lot to unpack here. And I think if you can just hone in on these pieces, so you're not self-theme, your authority, how you're making decisions, your profile lines, your sacral center, your solar plexus, and your throat center, understanding those parts of you, understanding if they're defined versus undefined. So defined meaning it's filled in, it's colored in on your chart, undefined meaning it's not. And basically, if you have the center undefined, it just means that the energy there is less consistent, it's more fluid, and it's more you're more open to conditioning and kind of feeding off other people's energy in those particular centers. And so understanding what that means and how to navigate that and how to process that. So we know, again, we're discerning what's ours and what somebody else's. So these are the 6 most important parts of your human design chart that can really make an impact on shifting your well-being. Just these parts. Now, I am well aware that there's a gazillion other parts we haven't talked about. But even if these are the only parts of your chart you understand ever, after today, it's the only parts you ever like study in your own chart, it's going to have such a profound impact on how you're operating at an energetic level and how your energy is flowing on a physical level. Because here's the thing, I want to leave, this is just the last bit just to like put the stamp on it. Remember, I've had so many podcast episodes about this, but remember that your energy centers, which your energy centers are all, there's part of your human design body graph, all the energy centers are correlated to specific organs and glands. These particular organs and glands are responsible for emitting certain hormones that do certain things in the body, right? Hormones are just little chemical messengers. So the fact that we're talking about how your energy, how your emotions are affecting these energy centers, it's literally affecting how your organs, how your hormones are functioning in the body. Right. So it's affecting what these chemical messengers, the messages that they're sending, it's affecting what's supposed to happen after those chemical messengers send the message. Right. So you understand this is how it starts. It starts on this energetic level, this emotional level, and it ends up affecting you on this physical level because of this stagnation, this energy that's stagnating, this energy. I always say that it's like energy is held hostage in the body. The lack, when the flow of energy, or the energy is not flowing, then neither is it's affecting you at a cellular level. Neither are your hormones, right? Our hormones. And in traditional Chinese medicine, they say that the balance of yin and yang in the body starts in the endocrine system. It's your hormones, right? So keep this in mind and hone in on these 6 pieces. Knowing these 6 pieces can change everything for you, and just understanding these in your chart honing in on these pieces for yourself, and these 6 pieces alone on your human design body graph can change everything. So I would love to know your thoughts on this. And if you just join and you want to go back and listen and then ask questions, I love to go back and answer questions and address if you have questions about these 6 parts of your chart. If you're interested in learning more, and if what I'm talking about, you're like, I only know a little bit and I really like to know more, I have a couple options right now. So I do have a 3-month little human design mini mentorship. So it's 3 months working one-on-one together to really understand and embody your chart. So these 6 pieces, obviously, but there's so much more to it. And we have 3 whole months together to really hone in on all of the pieces of your chart and what it looks like to really embody those. And yeah, so you're a beginner. Perfect. And that's perfect for a beginner. So, and the thing with the mentorship too, and I do have just one-off sessions. So if you just want to do a one-off session, if you're like, I just want like a taste of this, then I do one-off sessions. The mentorship though is such it's just a deep dive into all of it. And so it's just going to be really looking at this such a deep level, and then having that one-on-one attention and one-on-one conversation to really help you embody that. So yeah, so if you're watching this or listening to this, because I'm recording too, or you want to go back and watch the replay, go get your chart first. So you can go to any site and get your free chart. I usually just say go to myhumandesign.com because I feel like it's the easiest. I feel like it's one of the easiest ones to look at. So you can go to myhumandesign.com and get your free chart, and then go back and listen to everything that I said. So you can look at those 6 pieces. So I went through 6 pieces of your chart and how that affects, it's going to create the biggest shifts in your overall well-being. And so go look at those 6 pieces in your own chart, dive into those. If you want to know more, shoot me a message. I'm happy to help and we can chat about options. And I hope that this helps. I'd love to hear your takeaways and your questions as you're watching the replay. And I'll see you all next time.